You are getting ready to listen to the voice of Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, 2004 Olympian, four-time national judo champion, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, author, speaker, and coach.
What's going on, man? Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Rhadi. Seems to be a very, a hot topic on Michael Vick going on. As he's been provided with an opportunity to be recognized at the Pro Bowl, I believe as an honorary captain. A couple of years ago, Michael Vick did some, I would agree that there were some heinous acts. Things that were behaviors that were, let's just call it what they are, that would be in line with what some people would call sociopathic behaviors in terms of cruelty to animals. I need to provide some context to some people who are having these arguments or having these discussions, because I think that there's some nuances that are missed, and there's some context that are a little bit off. I think first and foremost, I think the number one thing that I don't know if anybody agrees with the abuse of animals. I haven't seen that on the discussions that I had on my page, on the discussions that I read on the internet, from the discussions I have with people. I don't know of anybody who was cool with Michael Vick's behavior. Not one person. Not one. I think the disconnect lies in individuals who are super pious, who tote this Judeo-Christian theoretical framework and put it on their chests, who say love is love, who provide second, third, and fourth chances to other individuals and people, who also say that all lives matter, get to the point where this person's life doesn't matter anymore. Michael Vick did what he did. As a society, even though we don't like it, if we don't follow the rules that are provided in terms of jurisprudence, then we live in a society of anarchy. So there are times when we see cases that go a way that we would like, and we see cases that don't go a way that we would like, and we get upset and we protest and we march and we do all the things that we're provided with in a free society. In Michael Vick's case, he served his debt that was handed down through the judicial system, paid his, we would say, his societal debt, went to prison, came out, and one person said, well, he had a PR team. Well, PR team or not, if most people at that level have a PR team, he has a PR team and he does advocacy for animals. He could choose to do any type of advocacy. He does advocacy for animals. And we're at a point now where we as a society, I'm not talking about no black or white or yellow or brown. I'm not talking about any of that. As a society, and I heard people say, it's not up to me to forgive him. Yes, it is up to you to forgive him if you feel or you felt like you were offended by his behavior and he apologized. You have to get to a point in your spirit or your person where you accept the apology that was rendered, or you had a higher level of understanding where you, in any relationship, where you can accept an apology that was never given. See, this doesn't have anything to do with the mauling of animals. This doesn't have anything to do with Michael Vick. There will always be some societal and racial and environmental and social fabricators that impact the decisions that you make and your emotions or how you feel about a situation. But it comes down to, do you have it in you to forgive someone? And can someone look at you and see themselves in you? Meaning, if I did something bad, I would want you to extend the grace to me that you would want extended to you. Because, and I'm talking about these people who, I'm talking about people who like me, people who believe in Christ, who try to live right. You do wrong stuff, man. It happens. But you walk around with the Christ-like theme told in the Bible, going to church on Sunday, and then you can't extend love and forgiveness to someone who's done wrong. Yeah, it's bad. It's no good. Not good. It's difficult to do, but at what point do you stop attacking somebody who's already paid? Because you're going to continue to make them pay? Man, I've seen people come out and say, oh, he's a POS. Oh, man, he's this and he's that. And he's, man, you never talk to the guy. You never call the guy. You don't know the guy. I can't tell you how many of my friends, when I went to a historically black house, I can't tell you how many of my friends have jumped on my case about Donald Trump. I personally don't dislike Donald Trump. I personally don't like Donald Trump. I don't know Donald Trump. I have two people that I know who know Donald Trump personally. When I saw Donald Trump speaking the way he spoke, I got on the phone and I called the people. One of them was a client of mine, and I asked him XYZ, is Donald Trump like this? Is he like this? He says, no, man, he's not like that. This is no different than a character that he plays up. So he's, in my opinion, he's not being socially responsible, blah, blah, blah. He said, man, he's not doing anything but the polar opposite of what Obama did in order to get elected. I took what he said and I left it. Now, I don't have any problem telling you out in the open, oh, you can't tell me. I don't have any problem telling you I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't. I'm not banging on my internet every day upset about it, because let me tell you something. I had my time when Obama was in office, and now it's not my time, it's somebody else's time. So it happens. When you compete, you get it. You know, there's nothing that I'm going to do to change that particular state. It is what it is. It happened. The match is over. Let's move on. Let's find out how do we heal? How do we get along with each other? Man, I'm watching the people on some of the threads on my page begin to attack. Like I present my particular thesis, you present the antithesis. Let's come up with synthesis. No, I present my thesis, and then I'm stupid, dense, and then other people are dumb. You're an idiot, and then blah, you're racist, and you. And how do you get to this point where you don't say, hey, man, you did some bad things to me. You did some bad things to some other people. You paid your debts to society. I accept your apology, and let's move on. You can't continue to punish people over and over again for the same thing. I mean, you can. Now, I am not the spokesperson for all things black. I'm very, very black, but I'm not the spokesperson for all things black. I can tell you this. In my social circle, I went to a historically black college, have black parents, have black aunts, black uncles, black cousins, lots of them. My circle of influence is filled up with black folks. All I can tell you is black folks are the ones that I've talked to, are the ones that I know, grew up in a time very different than the one that I'm growing up in now. I tell people that the conversations at Thanksgiving and at dinner were very different when I was growing up than I'm sure some of you were growing up. My mom got hit with a water hose in the 60s. My parents went to segregated schools, and they integrated schools later. My grandparents are, on both sides of my family, are from the Bahamas, on my dad's side and my mom's side. They come from a very homogeneous island where people all look like them. So the discussions that I have are very different. You know, there were discussions when I was coming up where, you know, people had dogs sicked on them, and people would go out on a boat with. I remember my mom was telling me a story about these black dudes that went on a boat. Was a black dude went on a boat with these white kids, and when they came back, you know, the white kids had said that the dude drowned. And what was permeated through my rearing process and in that community was, hey man, don't go on no boat with no white kids, because if you do, they're gonna say you drowned and you're not gonna come back. Now that's not true. That's 100% not true. It's 100% not true. But people live in different communities. They get different information. They grow up differently. And then as we get older, we do our best to shed the foolishness that we learned, and to not just lead with our thinking, but also lead with our heart and our thinking, and keep an open heart and an open mind with love and forgiveness. However, those experiences when I grew up, it was commonplace for Black folks to say, man, white folks care more about dogs than they do about Black people. So here's what happens. When you engage in a discussion with people, and the people engage in a discussion with other people, we have people from my generation, okay? Most of the people from my generation who had dogs, especially those people from the South, and most either Black folks or lower middle class or right above the poverty line, the dogs that they had, they were all outside dogs. I never grew up in Miami, or when I visited Perrine or Richmond Heights, I never grew up with it. There were no dogs in the house. The first person that had a dog in the house was my Aunt Vanessa. She had a Pomeranian that was in the house. I had never seen a dog in the house. Listen to me very carefully. I had never seen a dog in a house, ever. I remember when I lived in Boca Raton, Florida, a few years ago. I used to see I used to live in Boca, so I used to see these white folks carrying the dog inside of Whole Foods. Like that's such a foreign concept for some people like me who come from a different background. And I think when we're communicating online and we're just writing, we're not understanding that people are writing from different framework. They're writing from different experiences. They're writing from a different viewpoint. They're writing from a different level of understanding. So most Black folks that I know, I'm saying that I know, who come out of the church experience, they come out understanding that there's an order of things. And the order of things is that there's man, and then there are animals, and then the man was made higher than the animals. So it's very rarely, sometimes you will, but very rarely will you hear, little Charlie is a part of the family. I personally, I'm not saying that it's not said. These are generalizations. I don't speak for all people. I'm only giving you my experiences. I have never heard any of my family members ever say that the dog they had was part of the family, ever. I've never heard it. My dad had a dog. The dog's name was Bobo Hero Fergo, okay? That was my dad's dog's name. My dad, who's older now, they used to fight the dogs in the street. I am telling you right now, I have seen many dog fights in the street when I was growing up. I mean, they used to bring the whole dogs back and fight dogs. I didn't know dog fighting was illegal until Michael Vick. People just used to bring the dogs around and the dogs used to fight. That was like a common thing when I was growing up. I had no clue. And I say this because everybody who communicates, they're communicating from their own experiences. They communicate from their own experiences. And there's a certain faction of people who just cannot believe how one group of people can be outraged about dogs and not outraged about Black folks dying. And it doesn't have anything to do with it's not a racial thing. It's just this group of people think they have the ability, I'm not even going to say privilege, they have the ability to worry about animals. And these people over here, they're worried about their children surviving past the age of 25, or somebody not making a mistake and shooting in a car and them getting a phone call. Like they cannot fathom you so worried about dogs, and they're worried about their kids. So when you have the discussion clashes on what seems to be the issue, but they're not really talking about the issue. They're talking about their own lives and their own conceptual frameworks and their own experiences with the discussion. So I just think when you all are talking, I think if you use a little bit more Stephen Covey, first seek to understand before you seek to be understood. And And I think if you stop being so dismissive in the conversation and kind of ask us, man, where are you coming from on this issue? And they can explain it, and you can probably get further if you say, hey man, I respect where you're coming from. I just respectfully disagree. And here's why. When I was growing up, we had a Cocker Spaniel named Sammy, and Sammy was just pop, 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 boom, boom, boom. And I could never imagine Sammy having done to him what Michael Vick did to him. And people who do stuff like that, to me, they are lower than well doo-doo, and I can't really get down with anybody who does that, XYZ. And I don't care how many times he apologized or what he's making amends for. Somebody might say, you know what? I understand your point. Are you a believer? I say, yes, I'm a believer. Well, how do you reconcile the cognitive dissonance of being a believer and not being able to forgive? And then have the discussion. It's a rich discussion. It doesn't have to get into a black or white or race thing. It really gets down to, man, people have different views and different viewpoints, and nobody is respecting things anymore. And we live in this cancel and call out culture where you just believe if somebody makes a mistake, then they should not be able to do anything anymore. There are people who, somebody gave an example like this. Somebody said, well, what happens if what happens if a pedophile does this and the pedophile comes back and says, I apologize. We're supposed to let him run an adoption agency or a home or so on. And I'm thinking to myself, one of my friends hit me behind the scene and he asked, did they just compare human beings to dogs? And I said, yes, they did. But that's what some people do. And that's okay. I just don't believe that dogs and humans are the same. Personally, to me, that doesn't mean I'm going to go outside and kick a dog. I'm not going outside to kick a person. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. However, I would expect this. I would expect if you're going to mourn a dog, as police officers do, then I would expect a higher level of mourning for a human being. If you're going to give somebody some time, some jail time for killing a dog, then I think you should give them the same jail time for killing a black person. I don't have no problem. I don't have any problem with Michael Vick going to jail. What Michael Vick did was horrible, horrendous, terrible. And because he did that, I don't think that every portion or piece of his life should be taxed for the rest of his life. That's what I believe. There's some people that believe because he did that bad thing, he should always be taxed on everything that he does for the rest of his life. Those two different viewpoints, they can be discussed if we deal with the undergirding of both of them. All I'm saying is, when you talk to people and they have the discussion, don't be so dismissive by just saying, oh, Michael Vick's man, things happen. Things spin out of control. Things go beyond what you thought. Things are different for different people. He might not have looked at dogs the same way you do. That's possible. Let me see what somebody said. Yeah, somebody said, I just had this discussion yesterday. Yeah, man, it's different. I think that we get within our groups of people that think the way that we think, and then we just run off with it like it's right. No, man, what you think is not right. What you think is what you think. What you think is what you think. What the other people think is what they think. If two thinkers get together and have a discussion, you can have higher level order of thinking. But what happens is, if somebody doesn't think the way that you think, you just get dismissive. And I will say this from what I've seen on my pages on my side, because I went to a historically black college, and almost everybody on my friends list, man, almost everybody went to either, a lot of them are black or they went to historically black colleges. A lot of people on my friends list. I have not seen any of my friends come out and be just 100% dismissive of somebody's viewpoint. I have seen it the other way around. And that is an issue or a problem, because when you're talking, someone believes that when you speak, you think you speak from a supremacist standpoint, like what you say is right. So you could just say, Michael Vick's the piece of so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. Discussion over. Yeah, but you haven't listened, which comes off to someone who has been someone who lives as a minority, who has been treated as a minority all their lives. Now they're having a conversation with you and you don't understand where they're coming from, and then you just dismiss what they're saying without even listening. Now the discussion is no longer about Michael Vick. You've turned the discussion into something else, not knowing that you've turned it into that. These are the nuances of conversation that a lot of people don't address or attack when you're talking in social media. I am not here to say that one approach is right, nor that the other approach is wrong. What I'm here to tell you is that there's some undergirding and some conceptual framework that everyone comes to the table with. And understand that the people who are my age, who are 40 to 44, to 40 to 49, man, those people grew up a lot differently. Different. My parents' generation, the people who are 50 and up, they wouldn't. I would say that the black folks that I know, that's all I can talk. 50 and up, man, there was never any dogs in the house. I can't tell you how my mom trips when she goes into somebody's house and the dog runs up to the table. It is a foreign concept for her. She's in her 60s. She don't say nothing until she get in her car. It is a foreign concept to her. She can't understand when she sees a dog in the kitchen, she loses it. She doesn't say anything because it's different for her. It's totally different. It comes from a different background. Her experience with dogs are different. My experience with dogs is different. People say, oh man, why are black folks afraid of dogs? My friend, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know how you grew up, but how I grew up in Miami, Florida, when you walk down the street or you're on your bicycle and you see a dog hit the fence, bam, and the fence break open, and now you're in full sprint on your bike, and then your chain pops, and you're trying to put your feet over by the handlebar because the dog is nipping at your behind, and you can't wait till you round the corner. As soon as you round the corner, the dog stops because the dog knows to stay on the street. Listen, some of you didn't grow up like that. Some of you all don't have those experiences with dogs. And I have a scar across my lip right here, right now, because a dog bit me in the face when I was 4. Man, your experiences with dogs are different. The people in my parents' generation, they had dogs that were sick on them. So when they come from a different place when they think about dogs. It's just different. It's very, very different. It doesn't make it good or bad. It's just people speak from different experiences. Let me see what happened here. Oh, I had somebody that just put a mad face up on the I don't know, whatever it is. When you click the thing, you put a little mad face. I don't know what you're mad about. I can only explain to you what I can explain to you. I'm not telling you that I'm right. All I'm telling you is this. If you are like me and you call yourself Christian, you can't continue to beat down Michael Vick for something that he asked forgiveness for. If you are like me and you're doing the best you can, you're not perfect, you're doing the best you can to live Christ-like, you're doing the best you can, you still make mistakes, you still make errors, you still do things wrong at times. And Michael Vick paid his debt to society, asked for forgiveness. You have an obligation and a responsibility to lead with love and forgive him and move forward. And if you think that the words that you're saying are ones that propagate love, then fine. If not, then because you have this word that you heard right now, you should stop immediately and go fix what you said, or never say it again. If you believe, you might be one of those people who say, well, I'm not there yet. I'm still having that struggle. Well, have it silently.